Right. Let me just say it's okay. All right. As a preliminary, I am Rima Sherry, the Vice Chair of the Affordable Housing Trust, and as a preliminary matter, permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Tom Dixon,
Here.
Dave Iverson. Oh, just lost him. Oh dear. All right, well, that didn't work till we have Dave again. So,
I just let Dave back in.
oh, there he is. Okay, great. Dave, can you hear me? Norwegian. Dave, can you unmute and say that you can hear me, please? I guess it's hard to drive and unmute at the same time. Right. Okay, let's do Chantal. Can you hear me?
Here.
Here, okay. Well, I'm going to say that Dave Iverson is present. David, if you are able to get the camera or unmute, let us know. Because officially, you make the quorum. All right. We'll hear from Dave in a minute. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Christy Ferrantella.
Here.
Ellis Ramos, I forget your last name. Ellis
Ramos, here.
Ramos, here, thank you. And we also have Vicky Marsh, our attorney, here. And we have the finance director, Brian Turbett.
In attendance.
In attendance, all right. And we have Tucker, who I guess is still kind of consulting.
Present.
All right, great. All right, let's say good afternoon. This open meeting of the Affordable Housing Trust is being conducted remotely. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will, will include public comment. Sorry, lost. For this meeting, the Affordable Housing Trust is convening by video conference via Zoom app as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and all attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you, and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All right, as far all supporting materials that have been provided to members of this body are available on the town's website, unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Ground rules. We're now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in a conversation with other members, please do so through the chair officially being taken care to identify yourself. Sorry. All right, for items with public comment, after the members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment to those members of the public that have joined the meeting via Zoom. Members of the public who wish to speak must state their names and be acknowledged by and speak through the chair. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. Okay, David, can you say that you are present? No, because you're unmuted. But
I think he's having some sort of internet issue or something because he keeps on coming in and out.
yeah, he's driving. I did see him driving the car, so yeah,
Rima?
yeah, he's here.
Ah, fine, hello.
All right,
I
great, Dave.
apologize.
No problem.
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear your voice, and now you're officially included, and we are a quorum, and we're off to the races here. So,
Perfect.
Uh,
Apologize.
no problem. Now we're gonna take a vote to approve the agenda unless Ellis, is there any changes, or Christie?
Yes, there was one sorry, Christy. There was one change. I emailed Brian about the minutes.
Mhm.
We're going to have to leave them for the next meeting.
Okay, all right, so the agenda is amended to send the minutes to the next meeting. So do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as amended
So move, Madam Chair.
by Tom? A second?
Second.
By Chantal. By roll call vote, Tom Dixon,
Aye.
Chantal Blas Murphy,
Aye.
Dave Iverson. Oh, he just dinked out. I know. It's like, right, I'm an aye. Dave,
Aye.
Dave's an aye.
Aye.
Okay, we did it. All right, excellent. On to the next thing, which will be item for public comment. Do any of the two members of the public that we have wish to comment? All right, seeing none, I'm going to move on to our closing cost assistance program application review. And I'm going to turn this over to Christy. I see that we have amendments that need to happen.
Yes, so this came to my attention a few weeks ago from Sully, that as we were reviewing one of the closing cost assistance applications, that we just wanted to make some adjustments, text adjustments in it, with one of the main ones being that the application has the housing office as being located at 2 Fairgrounds Road, and that the applications are due there. And so it's caused some confusion when people go there and then are sent downtown. So we wanted to make that the first change very clear, that where our offices are and where the application should be turned into. The second thing for discussion was the program currently goes up to the 150% AMI. And I wasn't sure if that was something that we wanted to adjust up to 240%. Given that we just approved the deed restrictions at the honeysuckle lots. And the last thing, there was the third thing. Oh, and then to adjust the actual AMI limits. So they reflect current data.
Okay. Great. All right. Does anyone have any thoughts? The address, of course, we need to change. So let's talk about adjusting the AMI to 240. Anyone think that's okay or not okay? All right. Personally, I'm okay with it. I think it'll be consistent with the changes that we've made. So and then if we are in agreement to adjust to 240, we of course will need to adjust the AMI limits to current. And so can I hear a motion to accept and amend the CCAP application.
Madam Chair, question
Sure.
through you to Christy. Christy, will this document also be available in Spanish and Portuguese?
That is the intention. One of the last comments I made on the sheet was to have it available in other languages, and so checking with the communications department to get that done.
Okay, thank you. I'll make that motion, Madam Chair.
Great. Thank you, Tom. And Shanta, do you want to discuss?
Yes,
Shanta had her hand up.
I just want to voice my concern about, my understanding of the closing cost assistance program is that it's supposed to help low to moderate income families purchase homes on the island. Looking at the 240% AMI with an individual making $243,900 applying for $15,000 or being able to qualify for $15,000 closing cost assistance is really concerning, because I feel like that's taking away from folks who really need it. While I understand that we are simply aligning with the other changes / requests that we've made, I want to make sure that concern is voiced.
All right. Do I hear a second to Tom's motion? And then we can have more discussion. Wow. Yeah, it looks like Dave is not the right color anymore. Oh, there he is.
Hello, am I there?
Yes, you're back.
I'll second.
Okay.
You know what? In all honesty, I can barely hear Sean's point. If you could you paraphrase it for me? I'm sorry.
Okay.
It sounded very muffled.
All right. Sean expressed concern that going to 240 might take the chance away from more needy applicants at 150 and below. And she felt that at the income level that someone at 240% AMI has.
Okay. That's kind of what I thought. So I guess my question is this: do we have a set amount of funds available for this? How often is it used? And I agree with Shauna. I would hate to see someone in the upper ranges take away from the ones in the lower ranges. But the question is that a reality? Will that happen? Do we have a limited amount of funds for this? How often is the program used? Kind of, I think, are the relevant questions to base my decision on what Sean's saying. Does that make sense?
That does, and I'm going to address your question to Christy as far as budget and frequency of applications.
So frequency of applications occurs with the availability of deed restricted units. So obviously with the development at Richmond, we've seen more over the last few years. That's starting to die down. I think we've seen one come in, at least since I've started in the last couple of months. In terms of a budget line item, I'm not sure if we have an exact set aside for this, but there are funds available for this program. But I can get back to you, or if Brian Trebbitt wanted to.
Yeah, if you know, Christy, if it's easy to figure out, or Ellis, how much we spent last year. And Tucker has a comment too, while you guys are looking around through that. Tucker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know if this is helpful, but if you think about some things that are on the horizon here, Habitat for Humanity, as you know, is creating 6 units on Waite Drive. Richmond, as you also know, is accelerating the creation of some 80% units out in the Sandpiper development. And let's just say you assumed for a second, which is a huge assumption, but you assumed for a second that the 39 units that are part of the Surfside Crossing project were going to be available sometime soon. so you take all that, that's, 51 foreseeable units. Why don't you double that number, like just, for other things that potentially come online in the near term? If someone utilized all $15,000 that is made available through closing costs, that would equate to 1.35 million. Typically, we found that the net amount used ultimately is closer to 10,000, so about 2/3 of the initially granted amount. So you're talking about roughly $1 million that would go out in the sort of 2, 3, 4 year time frame. Obviously, I'm not accounting for 175, 240% units there, but that sort of is part of that doubling of the number factor. So just as an order of magnitude, I thought I'd share that. I think Chantal's point is a very good one, but I just wanted to share some of the numbers.
Thank you, Tucker. And Ellis?
I have the number of families that we helped with the program last year. We helped 10 families. 2 of them were 150 AMI, and 1 was 175, and the rest was all 80% AMI.
Thank you very much, Ellis. And I think something to consider is what Tucker said about the units that are coming online. They are well below the 240% AMI restriction. So it looks like those applications are how we're going to be using that money. So and I note that Brian Sullivan has joined the meeting, and I am happy to hand over chairing to him. Brian, we are on the review and amendment and update of the closing cost assistance program application. And Chantal has voiced concern about going up to 240 AMI. So we just got a little bit more information so people can make a decision. Tom has made a motion to approve the updated application, and Dave has seconded it. So we're in discussion now. So glad you're
Thank you, Remo. My apologies, everyone, for being late.
And I'm sorry, and you know what? I pulled back that second. I didn't really intend the second without having a full knowledge of what Chantal's issue was. I'm sorry to throw that wrench in there. This damn phone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We got you, Dave. So we do not have a second at the moment on Tom's motion. We're still okay. So we're still in discussion.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Tom.
I'll retract my motion so we can go back to discussion.
Great. Okay. So no motion on the table. So we're back in discussion. Chantal, I apologize to can you restate your concern just for me if I'm going to participate?
Yeah, of course. I was just saying that my concern, Dave, I hope you can hear me. I'm trying to speak louder.
No, I'm sorry. I don't know if it's the car or your mic. I don't know, but I understand what you're saying for sure.
Okay. Now. It's probably my mic. My computer's so ghetto. Anyway, so my concern was that with going up to 240, looking at the income for the 240 across the board is concerning to me. That someone making a single individual making 243,000, as unlikely as it might be that person will be applying for closing cost assistance, they can apply, and it's not like we can say you make $223,000 and you have, $150,000 in the bank. You don't get it because we can't discriminate against folks when we bump it up to the 240. So I'm concerned that going up to that threshold, it will take away from families who really need it in that, 150 and below area. I understand that we don't have an unlimited amount of funds, and I get that majority of the houses coming online will be in that 150 and below. However, there's nothing to say that someone at 240 will not apply for closing cost assistance at some point. And I'm worried about that.
Fair. Okay, great. Thank you for restating it. I appreciate that. Christy?
Thanks. I just wanted to clarify, I might have misspoke, but the current program goes up to 175% AMI at its current application. And so it's serving any household that has a deed up to 175%.
And so I'm clear, if anyone's applying for anything, a home above 175%, yet they qualify at 175 or below, they can still apply for the funds. Is that correct or not correct? I just want to make sure that if
I would go to Vicky, but the way I understood it is that there needs to be a deed restriction on the house that's being purchased.
So I'm not sure whether, in fact, I have to look at the. Did it say that it has to be for a home that has a restriction of 175 and less? Is that?
Yes, so I just pulled up the eligibility on our website, is that you either have to have a confirmation that you have it has DHCD, that should be updated to EOHLC approved lottery unit, or a PNS from a permanently deed restricted unit at 175% or below.
In order to qualify to receive closing cost assistance. So, I mean, if that's the case, then the person has to have an AMI that's going to be 175% or less. They're not going to be a person that can be 240%, up to 240%. So therefore, if that's the guideline right now, you have to have those levels of 175 consistent. Otherwise, you're going to have to change the amount of the deed restriction as well as, I mean, that's the basis of the deed restriction is based on their annual median income. So you can't go to 240 and have 175% unit that they're buying, because then they wouldn't qualify for the 175 unit.
Vicky, so as a follow-up question in inverse, if the person was able to buy a 240 unit and their income was at 175 or below, because it's basically a loan versus a grant, that money would cycle back in to the trust, if I'm correct, right? That if somebody else came and bought the unit who in the future was above the 175, they wouldn't qualify for the funds. Am I making sense?
Yeah, people who have AMI, an annual median income that exceeds 175 would not qualify for these funds.
Right. But somebody, even though the deed restriction is above 175, somebody who makes 175 or less could apply.
Yes.
Okay.
Right now, the way it's structured, yeah.
Okay, so Shanta has her hand up and then Rima. Thank you, Vicky.
Thank you for that, Vicky. So then if that's the case, do we even need to bump it up to 240? To Vicky through Brian. Thank you.
Only if we wanted to make it available to people above 175, so. Go ahead, Rima.
Yeah, I think to make a more comfortable motion, I would say to approve the update of the CCAP application by correcting the address and doing any updates that we need to the chart with the income levels. So that would be my motion at this point. And I can't tell, Vicky, were you?
I was trying, I'm sorry, I was trying to get the hand up and I can't find, anyway, yes. So I think that ultimately, I mean, you have a choice. I mean, you can change it and go up to 240 if you wanted, but the problem is that they're only going to qualify for, you know, this program is applicable to programs that have restrictions for 175 and below. So it doesn't make real sense to have the program go up to 240. But I do think that what you want to do is show the correct and current AMI levels on your chart so that at least people understand the 175 AMI relates to X number of dollars in income. I think that is beneficial.
And to follow up, I guess we would say that, 175 and below would be in the affordable category, and 240 to 175 would call that attainable. So, anyway, so my motion stands.
Second, appreciate the description, Vicky. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we have motion from Rima and to make the edits to the table and in other places, but not to change any of the levels. Second from Tom. More discussion? Seeing none, I'll look for vote by roll call. Rima Sherry?
Aye.
Tom Dixon?
Aye.
Chantal Murphy?
Aye.
Dave Iverson?
Aye.
And Brian Sullivan's an aye. Okay. Forgive me while I jump to the agenda. Communication strategy for town meeting, an update. Christy, to you.
Thank you. So just a quick update. We had talked about it last week, but Meg is our liaison from the trust to the housing department. And we met, Ellis, myself, Meg, all met with the communications department with the town, with Florencia and Haley. And we mapped out a communications plan for the next kind of 5 weeks leading up to town meeting. That includes short videos, a housing newsletter, information in Libby's town manager newsletter, and social media posts that would really just kind of put information out there around affordable housing, and having a cheat sheet at town meeting, similar to what we did in 2021. So at our next meeting, we'll have some materials for you to review, but we're staying on track with moving that along.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, I haven't downloaded. I thought I had 12 more minutes before jumping on the meeting. My apology. Somebody read me the next agenda item.
It's Senator Sears' good landlord tax exemption.
Oh, yes, please. Christy, why don't you keep the mic and.
Perfect. So just a few weeks ago, we got an email from Senator Sear that there was a new law put in this past fall called the Good Landlord Tax Exemption. And it's another tool for towns to locally opt into to put in their toolbox for affordable housing. And what this would do would provide an abatement to landlords who are renting their properties year round. And it would be to an income qualified individual, and the rent would be at an affordable rent. There's a lot of things to kind of digest and go through. Senator Sears' office did send through a report from the DOR to kind of digest and things that would just move forward. I really wanted to kind of put it in front of the trust as really just an informational piece at this point. It would need to go through a town meeting vote, and so it'll probably be next town meeting either in the fall, but most likely next spring, that we would have it ready. But there are a few things that the trust would need to decide for. That's at the end of the informational guideline release that I circled around kind of how would this program be implemented, what would be the maximum amount of the exemption, what would be our affordable housing rate as they define in the program. So really, this was just an informational piece to get in front of you and to see kind of if there's any initial questions from either Vicky or Brian Turbot or the trust. And then, we'll continue to have this as an agenda item moving forward.
Let's come to Vicky.
So I just want to add that this particular you would have to vote to adopt the statute as it's currently drafted. And so it has a 200% AMI on it. So anything above that, if you were, say, wanting to implement this for, say, up to 240, you would have to file special legislation in order to be able to increase that amount. So just bear that in mind, that this program just goes up to 200% as presently drafted in the statute. So, you can do it. It's just going to take longer if you want to increase that amount. And then it would go through, as Christy said, it would have to get town meeting approval. And then any other issues that want to be adopted as far as local rules applying to the program can be adopted by the select board. So not everything has to go through another town meeting.
Great, thank you, Vicky. Christy, you mentioned a potentially fall meeting and then said it might not be ready until a spring meeting, so spring of 25. Can you help me understand the potential timelines? Could we be ready for the fall, or is there?
If there's a fall town meeting, then we can continue to have this on the agenda and work through. And in talking with Libby, the idea was that the trust would kind of work through some of the questions that were laid out and then recommend to the select board how the program would be executed and adopt and get it ready for town meeting.
And is this something that you see us doing as a full group and as a regular agenda item, or a work group to come back and make recommendations, or what makes the most sense to move this along?
Whatever you think is the best approach, we could definitely put together a small work group with maybe, Brian Turbot or Rob Raney as the assessor, and try to work through some of the initial questions and then present that to the full trust.
Thank you, Christy. Brian, did you have any feedback that you wanted to share at this point?
I haven't really finished discussing this, Mr. Chair, with the assessor. Some of the dates and the timelines here don't necessarily exactly line up with the way that we do things. So in terms of setting the tax rate, so I think that there's going to be some questions that we're going to have, but like I said, we haven't fully finished going through this and getting a complete timeline laid out on how the credits would be applied and such. So I think that I would reserve much more comment until after I've had that time to digest it all.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so that's an interesting factor in the whole thing, right? In the timing of the adjustment of the rates. So I at this point, please everyone review the packet in detail, and then we'll prepare we'll keep it on a future agenda item. Any more questions or comments from anyone before we move on? Seeing none, we'll move on to Housing Advocacy Day on April 8th. Christy, back to you.
April 11th. The date.
What did I say?
April 8th. I just want to make sure.
There's not even an 8 on the page. That's funny.
So I first just wanted to update the trust. And hopefully everybody saw on March 5th that the Joint Committee on Housing moved Governor Healy's Affordable Homes Act forward. And so it is now, they moved it forward with no changes to the bill as of yet. So the transfer fee is still included. And so it's now in the Joint Committee on Bonding, Capital Expenditures and State Assets. So there will be upcoming hearings, I'm sure, in the next couple of weeks. But kind of in tangent with that, the GBIO, Greater Boston, is it Interfaith Organization? Tucker might hop in here. Yes. They're hosting a Housing Justice Day on April 11th, and we're trying to get as many people to go to Boston, similar to what the Islands did last year, where we had nearly 400 people from the Vineyard and Nantucket show up to advocate for housing at the State House. And we really want to demonstrate the opportunity to pass this monumental bill that can really impact housing for the communities. And so we are just getting information. We got information about the date right before posting the agenda for today. So we just really wanted to kind of do a public service announcement that Ellis is working on getting transportation set up so that we can do similar to last year with the trust would cover the cost of transportation up to Boston and lunch. And we'd work with securing some volunteers to help students go. So we invited the civics course, I think those are 8th graders, to attend. They turned about 35 students last year came. So I'd love to see that same turnout. So everything's really kind of in the preliminary planning stages, but I at least wanted everybody to put that date on their calendar. And as soon as we have a way to sign up, we'll be distributing that to the masses. But we'd love to get everybody to join.
Great. Thank you. Go ahead, Tucker. Thank you, Christy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, just to add one other thing to what Christy outlined there. Last week, we feel it was fairly significant that the Speaker of the House for the first time spoke publicly about being open to the transfer fee. He's been silent up to this point, if not maybe behind the scenes, a little unsure about this. And so the fact that he delivered that message in front of an audience that isn't necessarily a fan of the transfer fee, the Boston Builders Association, we think is a good signal. So to go up and show our support alongside so many others for the transfer fee this time could be useful. Thank you.
Thanks, Tucker. Anybody have any questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to other business. Meeting schedule April 16th at 12:30 and April 30th at 12:30. Any comments, questions on those, or any other business? Seeing none, we'll close that. Open for board comments. Seeing none. Oh, go ahead, Tom.
Through you to Christy. Christy, are you planning to come back to the select board at any time to do a little quarterly update or something before town meeting? I think that might be a nice supplement to the outreach for the town meeting articles. Just a thought.
Yeah, through you, Brian, I will coordinate with Libby to make sure I have another quarterly update prior to town meeting.
Thank you. So with that, we'll close board comments and I'll look for a motion to adjourn to executive session, not to return to open session, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or real value of property where an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of a public body.
So moved.
Looking for a second?
Second.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave. So motion from Chantal, second from Dave by roll call. Tom Dixon.
Aye.
Chantal Murphy.
Aye.
Dave Iverson.
Aye.
And Brian Sullivan's an aye. Thank you, everybody.